So I want, if you look at page 3 where Korsgaard lays these out, you've got voluntarism, realism, reflective endorsement, and the appeal to autonomy. I just want to work through these 4 types of answers individually, just so that you have the taxonomy down and that then you're able to apply it as we get to folks like Aristotle and Kant as our test cases, but also so then you can think about how maybe your answers fit into one of these categories, other answers you find out in the world. Voluntarism, Korsgaard says, as an answer to the normative question. According to this view, she says, moral obligation derives from the command of someone who has legitimate authority over the moral agent and can make laws for her. This is a view that she primarily finds in the works of Thomas Hobbes and Samuel Pufendorf, but of course these two are just sort of historic examples for her. These are 2 different voluntarists. Again, they disagreed on certain things, so not all voluntarists agree about everything, but these are just the 2 kind of historical cases she's working through. But we can then make a more a general point, sort of think more generally about what voluntarism is. So if voluntarism is going to answer the normative question, why should I be moral, by saying that you have moral obligations deriving from the commands of someone who has legitimate authority, well then, of course, the question is going to be, well, you know, what makes legitimate authority, right? Now, Korsgaard looks to Hobbes and Pufendorf and finds, I think, intuitively the most obvious answer, and that is authority is rooted in the power to impose sanctions. Now, again, she's going to distinguish this from the question of ethics, right? So this is not a matter of right and wrong being forced on you by authority. And so just to maybe make this clear, let's think about the difference between voluntarism as an answer to the normative question and what, just with the last reading, Fromm was calling authoritarian ethics. So Korsgaard writes on page 6, what morality demands of us is what is reasonable for us, at least as a group, to do. This for most voluntarists. The rules of morality, she says, are the rules that make social life possible, and social life is necessary for human beings. The legislator is not invoked to supply the content of morality or to explain why people are often motivated to do what is right. The legislator is necessary to make obligation possible, that is, to make morality normative. And so, on the one hand, if you read Hobbes or if you read Pufendorf, you will find an ethics that is, in many senses, humanistic. The standards of right and wrong are connected with what is good for us, what makes social life possible, maybe some sort of a need we have as human beings. But Korsgaard's point, of course, is that even if right is doing what is good for me, why should I do the right thing? And so for voluntarists like Hobbes and Pufendorf, what is right and wrong? Okay, we can figure that out, but why should I do it? Why should I do the right thing? That is where normativity comes in. And so this is where the power of a legislator to impose sanctions is so important. And so the major answer, and Korsgaard considers a few others, but the major answer we can focus on here is that legitimate authority is rooted in the ability to punish. And so spelling out the normative answer more fully for the voluntarist, obligation comes from the commands of a legitimate authority. And you'll know an authority is legitimate if they have the power to punish you for not obeying their commands. Now, Korsgaard, of course, spends a good chunk of this lecture working through a problem, the major problem that she sees with voluntarism as an answer to the normative question. And again, I think it's worth our while working through this problem, even though we're more interested in the question than the answers right now, simply because I think for many of us, voluntarism is the most intuitive answer to the normative question. And so if we see where the problems come in, I think that's just a good way to get us thinking more carefully about the normative question as we work our way through ethics this semester. So, as Korsgaard puts it, pages 7 and 8, if what makes an authority legitimate is that they have the ability to punish you, then of course you would ask, if you're presented with someone who claims to be an authority, do they have the ability to punish me? But notice that's a problematic question, because having the ability to punish me, well, how do I know if you have the ability to punish me? And I only really know if you have the ability to punish me if you do punish me, if you are able to punish me. And so, of course, Korsgaard works through kind of an interesting thought experiment. She says, suppose I commit a crime and I get away with it. Then the sovereign was not able to punish me. And if my obligation sprang from his ability to punish me, then I had no obligation. So a crime I get away with is no crime at all. So imagine something very simple. If you run a stop sign and there's no cop around to pull you over and give you a ticket. Well, in this case, you have broken a law and the state was not able to punish you. And if the authority of the state, if the legitimacy of the state rests in their ability to punish you, then as soon as you can get away with committing a crime, all of a sudden it's not a crime anymore. It's not against a law because it's not a real law, because they're not a real authority. And so, of course, the problem here for us in ethics is if the obligation to be moral only comes if we are punished for being immoral, then as soon as you can get away with being immoral, you no longer are obligated to be moral. Now, of course, we can think about two very different kinds of authority, right? There are police, there are, family members, there are, friends, people out in public who might catch you for doing the wrong thing, but who might not catch you. And so, of course, you might just say, well, okay, these aren't real authorities, but there still could be real authorities, right? People who, entities who always see you. They see you when you're sleeping, they know when you're awake, they can punish you for doing the wrong thing, always. Now, this is interesting because it starts to set up a very different sort of a problem or challenge, one that's going to carry us actually right into the next answer.